The two main methods that supposedly fuels the evolutionary process are natural selection and mutations, but neither of them can cause macroevolution. In this video, let us consider natural selection. Natural selection has been proposed as one of the main methods that is responsible for fueling the evolutionary process. This method, which relies on purely natural means, would appear on the surface to be quite logical, but when examined closely, is not workable in producing macroevolution. The method speculates that if a species has a slight advantage over another, then in time only the advantaged one will survive at the expense of the disadvantaged one, resulting in changes that add up till eventually a new species is formed. The problem with this analysis is that small changes cannot result in any survival advantage between species that are almost identical. But when there is a large difference, such as the different colored moths, then natural selection works, but does not result in the creation of new species, as the next example will demonstrate. The peppered moth example on natural selection. An example on natural selection is the dark and light colored moths that alighted on the barks of trees which were covered with soot during the Industrial Revolution. Birds preyed on the light colored moths, as these were easy to spot against the grey background of the tree bark, resulting in a predominant dark-colored moth population. Before the Industrial Revolution, the tree barks were light, so the light-colored moths were prevalent, as the dark-colored moths were visible against the light barks and were preyed upon by the birds. Examples such as these that prove nothing are used to show that if a change in a species occur, then this could continue indefinitely with no limits. While it is possible to observe the switching of the moth color from light to dark and vice versa, we do not see these changes continue without limits, so that actually this proves the opposite of what is being intended to demonstrate. The misconception of equating natural selection with macroevolution is false. Natural selection has no mind of its own or will to cause any changes, nor is it responding to any beneficial needs a species might require to survive, but is only selecting the best suited species, or in other words, it is simply the result of a process of elimination, as in the latter case, the light-colored moth in favor of the dark moth. The important fact to remember is that natural selection is a passive process in producing changes in species. The genes for the two colored moths were already present in the moth genome, and natural selection was not responsible for the creation of the genes in the first place. Natural selection does not produce any new biological traits within a species, but can only select from biological traits already present that provide a survival advantage. Natural selection can be likened to declaring the winner of a contest, but in no way does this influence the outcome of the contest. In the previous example, the differences were large, but when the differences are slight, then natural selection cannot work, as in this next example of the giraffe's neck. This is an evolutionary version of how the giraffe got its long neck. In times of famine, the species with an advantage over the other would survive and even evolve into a new species to do so. The giraffe's long neck supposedly evolved from some common ancestor of an octopi which stretched its neck to reach the top leaves of trees, thereby putting this animal at an advantage over the other grazing animals. Eventually the neck grew longer through natural selection. A few extra leaves are not going to make any difference, as any initial small change in the neck length will not result in any added benefit. The females that are about 1 meter shorter than the males and the young giraffes, along with the other grazing animals, would perish. Additionally, in gaining this extra weight, it would require a lot more food, which defeats the purpose of the long neck to reach a few extra top leaves.